Hello and welcome to Jon and Louise on Life.
This week we have a really great interview with Sarah Yardley, who is the Mission and Ministry Lead at Creationfest.
So stick around to find out more about Creationfest and what a Californian is doing in Cornwall. Well, it's a great pleasure today to welcome Sarah Yardley with us. Now, Sarah will be known to many of you, but for those of you that don't know, she's the Mission and Ministry Lead at Creationfest. I got that right this time.
Nearly right that time,
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you ever so much for joining us, Sarah, today. Really appreciate your time.
Oh, it is such a joy. Obviously, we all wish we could be together in person, but this is a fun alternative. And I love everything about your scene set and just being able to see your faces.
This is our kitchen, actually. We've been interviewing people in our lounge, our kitchen, and our shed. So you get the pleasure of being with us in our kitchen today.
It's real life to the full.
It certainly is, yes. And could be people wander in and out as we speak, who knows?
Or the dog barks. Yeah. That's generally what happens.
Anyway, first question. Sting wrote the song about an Englishman in New York. You're an American woman in England. Come on, spill the beans. What's it like?
Man, I love that you've got the Sting song. I often think there's this slightly more recent song by the 1975s that says she's American. If she says we've got to fix our teeth, she's so American. And it goes through this whole list of stereotypes about Americans meeting British friends. I moved to the UK 6.5 years ago, and sometimes I feel so much more at home here that I'm shocked that I came from California originally. Sometimes someone says a phrase like teaching granny to suck egg, and I realize I still have no idea what I am doing here, nor do I understand really anything about life. So I think both of those extremes are true. I have so many rich and deep friendships. I feel so at home here, but I do say that I'm going home when I'm going to either country, and there's absolutely the occasional moment. One of my dearest friends and I had a conversation this week about the taps in England. It still makes no sense to me that the hot water and the cold water very often come out of two separate taps rather than being combined into one glorious, you can choose how hot or cold the spigot will be. And her mind was blown that I didn't think it was normal to have separate hot and cold water taps. And my mind was blown that she thought it was normal that they should be separated. So.
Wow. So is there food that you just can't get hold of here and you crave sometimes?
So because I grew up in California, authentic Mexican food is really difficult to find. You can make things from scratch, and I do as much of that as I possibly can. But I miss that. I miss really good ranch dressing. Again, you can get the packets, and I think you can even get Newman's Own now at Tesco, but just the original Hidden Valley ranch dressing. And then I just have to confess, I ate a ridiculous amount of fast food in California. So every once in a while, I just miss El Pollo Loco and nothing really very classy, actually. In-N-Out Burger, though, that's classy. But there are the occasional food items that my heart longs for in California.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Wow. So we are supporters of Creationfest at Crossroad. But for people that don't know, because this video goes far and wide, can you just explain a bit more about what Creationfest is?
Yeah, you guys have been so supportive over the years, and I think of many fun memories and really honest ones too. So 20 years ago, the founder of Creationfest, his name was Phil Pachonis, he had this vision, let's put some music out on a beach and invite people to experience the joy of knowing Jesus. And it went so well that they decided to do it again next year, but make it 2 days, and then next year make it 3 days. And by the time we met each other, it was a fairly vibrant 7-day event. I didn't start coming till it was in Cornwall, so it had moved from Devon, where you've experienced the glory, to Cornwall, where I presently experience the glory. And I think what's been amazing about it over the years is it's a lot of fun. Like, we put on this enormous large-scale festival gathering, and we see people meet Jesus and lives transformed, and skate parks and bonfires and all of the joy. But there's also really deep and beautiful relationships. And I've just recognized so much. I think perhaps there's even a marriage in your family that we can domino back to Creation
I think
some
you
responsibility.
can
for
take
that,
some
yes.
credit for that.
And besides just that moment, there's just been some amazing, deep and true friendships. And one of our trustees, he describes it as the steam. So, you know you're making a cup of tea and you know that you've put your tea bag in, and because I've lived here long enough, you're going to steep it properly before you drink it. You know what you're doing. But somewhere in between the kettle and the cup, there's the steam. And the steam is the beautiful, unplanned, extraordinary moments that I couldn't have manufactured them if I tried, but the Holy Spirit does more, and often in ways that we might not even see until eternity, by giving us a bigger gift than even the original thing we planned, which, as we all know, being halfway British and all the way British, a cup of tea is the best way to spend an afternoon, either way, anyway.
Without a doubt. But cake as well.
Yeah, you're going to have,
cake
or
as
at least
well.
rich tea biscuits to dunk. Do you dunk?
I'm failing this one right now, but please have grace with me. I've only been here for 6.5 years.
Oh, so
Right.
you're managing a really big team of people then. But I guess with COVID, things have changed a little bit this year.
Yeah, hugely. And what's amazing and has always been is that we have at least 75 people who are leaders with Creationfest. And almost all of them, including myself, are full-time volunteers. So the time that we give to the organization is voluntary. And what's beautiful about that is you only volunteer for things you enjoy doing. So it means that the people who are involved and engaged, their whole hearts are there. I think of that beautiful passage in Judges where it says, when the people offer themselves willingly. And that's been a huge part of our legacy. In 2020, we shifted to do everything digitally because that was really the only option on the table. And the digital side of things has its strengths and its weaknesses. And so I'm really excited to say that for summer of 2021, we've got a really big prayer and vision towards a hybrid option where we'll have something that we'll do at the showground, but we're also going to, using the theme, Hope is Here, invite and inspire churches and congregations and small groups and just people who love Jesus to think about what they could do in their local context this summer. So we'll have a big announcement on the 22nd of March through Creation Fest. But I think just that bigger picture vision, what does it look like for us to know that hope is here and to both announce and demonstrate that with our lives is such a beautiful invite. And I'm really excited to see what the creative spirit of God does with the framework that we give to people.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. So you've teased us a little bit there. Can you put some more meat on the bones, if you like? It's a weekend that we're going to be meeting. How many people can come? Who have you got band-wise and speaker-wise? That sort of thing. I'll tease us with a little bit more.
So fun. So yeah, we're looking at the 30th of July through the 1st of August for the dates. And I'm going to be cautious to say much about capacities right now, because what we'll do is the maximum that is allowed legally. So who knows what that will look like come 30th of July, but whatever the maximum is that we can do legally, that is what our doors will be opened to. And the beautiful thing about operating an event at a showground with loads of outdoor space is we're trying to be really creative about our outdoor spaces this coming year, and thinking about ways to let people feel incredibly safe and protected and guarded, but also just play to the fact that we have a showground to work with, which is a lot of fun on a lot of levels. I mean, you've got some circus decor right behind you. And then the content that we're going to offer in video format, we're hoping that that'll be the kind of thing that churches will pick up and run in person with their church family. So rather than everybody being able to drive to Wadebridge, which may be challenging, we may be in a tier-based system, who knows what that'll look like. We're saying let's be as creative as we can with the shapes and the spaces that we have. I'm going to wait to say any names because the 22nd of March and the 15th and 22nd of March are our big announcements. So I think my comms team might actually be very disappointed if I say names before that big release, but I will just say there's some names that I'm very excited to say. So stay tuned at creationfest.org.uk or all of our Creationfest UK social channels for some fun people who said they would love to join us.
Fantastic.
Good. I'm looking forward to hearing who's going to be there.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that you're thinking sort of a hybrid kind of thing, because we've been thinking the same, that perhaps church is going to look different and that some of us will be able to come back and meet together and other people will be still watching online. So I guess that's kind of the way we're all looking at the moment.
I've been really influenced by the thinking of Mark Sayers. He's just done some beautiful work around this. And his whole thing is, let's reframe this story. Let's reframe our thinking. Let's reframe our creativity. He has 4, and I don't remember all 4 of them. Check out his Rebuilders podcast. But the idea is, during this time, instead of being the people who say we can't and we're limited and this isn't anymore, how can we reframe for maximum gospel creativity? Because we still believe that the Spirit of God is at work, that people are hungry for community, but there may be a new way that we reach and share that message. And so I'm really excited about this reframing time.
Brilliant.
Now, there would be a name to bring to Creation Fest, Mark Sayers. That would be good, wouldn't it?
Stop pushing. Leave Sarah.
Imagine if there's an invite already out. Imagine, just hypothetically.
Oh, that's really good. We were saying earlier on that you're sharing the showground at the moment with Vaccination Centre. So if Creation Fest is happening at the same time, and maybe there are younger people, the sort of younger age group that are coming down for their vaccinations at that time, that's really great, isn't it? Because they might be interested to find out what else is going on site.
Absolutely. And there's such an interesting moment, isn't there? But part of the DNA of Creation Fest has always been, we want to make the message of Jesus beautiful for both the follower and the fringes. Like, that's always been our heartbeat. And so even in really practical ways, the fact that our site will be the place that people will be coming for their vaccination alongside, it does still look like there'll be some holiday adventures happening in Cornwall, summer of 2021, that will just be in the heartbeat of what's happening already in and amongst our community. And I was actually just speaking to the lead for the vaccination center this morning. He's absolutely wonderful. And just the chance to work in integrated ways with our community is a real gift. And so I'm really looking forward to the fact that there's going to be some fun stories of what God does just because we're using a showground that is the vaccination center alongside a Creation Fest gathering.
Fantastic. Now, changing the subject a little bit, if running a huge event like Creation Fest wasn't enough, you've got your finger in all sorts of pies, including you're writing a book. Is that right?
I am. I have written a book. I'm writing another book, but that one we won't talk about yet. I wrote a book on change, and it comes out summer of 2021 through SPCK Publishing, and it's called More Change. And what's amazing about it, and I'm bewildered because I'm always bewildered at the good things God does, is I started thinking about and writing this book a couple of years ago. Publisher pursued me, really beautiful story there. But a book on change, you would have given it to like 2 or 3 of your friends back in 2019, right? Like, oh, maybe that friend who got married, or maybe that one who's going off to uni, like 1 or 2, a handful. In this present moment, there is almost no one I would not give a book about change to. And I think that the beautiful part about it is that I've walked with Jesus for 37 years, and the subtitle is on navigating change with an unchanging God. And one of my dear friends, he had said to me, Sarah, you've navigated more change than anyone I know. You've changed countries, you've changed culture, like there's all these different changes, and you've somehow managed to navigate change without cynicism. And it's just been a recurring word that God has spoken over me, and that I'm really praying comes out through this book, is that we want to be the people who walk through seasons of change, hopeful and expectant and joyful. We don't want to be cynical and depressed and weary. And so my prayer is that what comes through these 8 chapters, it's a short book, is what does it look like to be the people who navigate circumstances and places of change, but do it knowing that our God is unfailing in his love towards us, is kind, and yet his presence is with us. Everything in our lives is an invitation to intimacy.
Wow, that's awesome. I think we could do with reading that book.
I think we could do. Yeah. So
navigating
you've definitely sold 2.
Yeah.
No, 1 we'll share.
We'll share. Funny spite. No. So you've got a lot going on in your life. You are a busy woman all the time. How do you have time for yourself and for relationships, for example? We have a number of people that we know, friends that are single and perhaps looking for a partner, but also balancing that out with being in ministry and working for God. How do you balance your life to sort of just make sure that you're kind of heading down the right track?
Yeah. So it's funny, this is actually in the book. One of my dear friends, I once said to her, I'm just looking for balance. I just need some more balance in my life. And she said, oh no, when you're balanced, you think you've got everything under control. When you're not is when you know how much you need Jesus. And I don't think that means we should live in a perpetual state of recklessness. But what it does mean is that sometimes we are in places where we recognize great need, and we recognize in that our need for God. I'll answer that question kind of in two parts. First of all, on a personal level, I'm passionate about seeking the face of Jesus. And I just took 5 months to do some time as leadership development, where I stepped back from all of my ministry roles. And it was the first time in 20 years of being an adult that I had not been in charge of someone else's spiritual development, which was just a radical moment for me. And I think in the midst of that, I rediscovered a real love for prayer, for just spending time with Jesus, for knowing that my identity is first and foremost daughter of God. Like that's my identity, is beloved daughter. And I think that before you can say anything else about the wider relationships and serving in ministry, that must be central. Ministry must flow from intimacy. It must be those places where we just rest in our identity with Christ. And for me, practically, that looks like guarding time for personal, private time with Jesus every day. And not just so that I can post my Christian kid picture on Instagram and say I've done my quiet time, but really saying I will guard the time. And for me, I do lots of prayer walks. I'm reading through a 1-year Bible. I have just space where I turn everything off. I turn off my phone every Friday night, delete all my social media, and bring it back either Sunday or Monday, depending on how the weekend goes. So guard at least 24, more like 36 hours off of all of that every week. And then on wider relationships, I use this analogy a lot. It's called the waterfall analogy. So some friendships are like waterfalls. Like when you're in their presence, it's just this beautiful, refreshing, you see the world more brightly and clearly because of those friendships. I pursue my waterfall friendships. Some friendships are like ponds. You're just aware that was a thing. It just happened, like you were there. It was like a pond. I ruthlessly cut my pond friendships. Some friendships are a drain. When you spend time with them, you have given out, and it might be because there's been a place of weakness or vulnerability or wounding, but you just know, oh, I'm exhausted after that. I ask the Spirit to give me wisdom about the drain friendships, because sometimes I'm the drain friendship. And sometimes God calls us to love generously those who need to be reminded we're not loved because we deserved or earned it, but we're loved because we're loved. Like God loves us, and he gives us his people to show that love. And so when I think about my friendships and my relationships, I'm often thinking about how can I pursue and guard the time for those waterfall friendships that refresh me? How can I be a little bit ruthless with the ones where I just say, okay, that was just a thing, but someone else can watch Netflix with them. I'm probably not going to have time for that. And then in the places where I recognize a giving of my time, I'll just step back and say, okay, Holy Spirit, is this a place where you're calling me to generously love because I have been generously loved? Or is this perhaps too much at this moment to bear? And do I need to just take a step back for a little while?
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I really like that analogy. I think that's really useful. Yeah, it really is. Great. Wow. Is there anything else you would like to ask Sarah? And no pushing about who's going to be at Creationfest.
I'll find out. Don't you worry. I'll find out. I'll let you all know soon.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. No, I think we'll probably bring it into an end there. Sarah, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. We love what you're doing with Creationfest. Look forward to your book, but also everything else you do is great too. You're such a blessing to the UK church. So we thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. It's been a joy to be with you. And I just think the world of both of you, and can't wait to catch up on all the other videos in this series as well. Such a treat to be with you today.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you in August or July, 30th of July in Cornwall. Thank you, Sarah.
Well, what did you think about that then?
I thought that was a really good interview, actually. A lot of wisdom. I mean, a real passion for Jesus, which is great. Really comes across well that she loves Jesus and just wants to serve him and make him known. But also a lot of wisdom there.
Yeah. What I really liked was the fact that she switches off the phone on a Friday and gets off social media for the whole weekend, and then she comes back on Sunday, because Sunday is a work day for anybody in church life. We do that. We unplug the phone actually on a Friday, and try and have some time off, because Fridays are kind of our day together. Well, it used to be. I mean, not that you can do an awful lot in lockdown, but I think it's a really good idea to set aside time to rest, time just to read a book or to relax, go for a walk without having to answer the phone all the time, or the need to have to answer it if it's ringing. It's different. If it's not ringing, you aren't going to answer it.
Yeah, but come off social media as well.
Yeah, I think
Facebook,
that's really good.
Twitter, all the others. Just unplug yourself.
I know I was going to tell you. A few weeks ago we talked about a prophet called Jeremiah Johnson, who suffered a backlash after he came out and said that he'd got the prophecy about Trump being made president again, and how he'd had 500 death threats because of it. Well, today on social media, he's shut down his ministry for the next 2 weeks, and him and his team, I think it's 9 people in his team, are praying about whether the ministry is going to continue or not. They're coming off of all social media. They aren't answering any phones, no mobile phones, no emails are going to be replied to, and they are praying together for the next 2 weeks. So it'd be interesting to see what happens to that ministry in a couple of weeks' time.
So remember Jeremiah Johnson in your prayers. He's a man who's got a genuine heart for God and really wants to glorify Him, but has hit a big bump in the road. And and pray for the American church actually as a whole. I think it's going through, a lot of places are going through real struggles at the moment.
All right, well, we will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel, because all of our videos are going to be on Jon and Louise on Life from now on. So if you want to be the first to see them, this is where you'll see them. Okay.
So we're going to go and unplug something and...
unplug the phone. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.